Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Startup Jungle podcast. I'm your host, Sweeney, and today we have on Chris Rodriguez, who is Growth and the Marketing Manager at Knewton. Now, Chris, why don't you explain to us a little bit about what Knewton is?
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me, Sweeney. So Newton is revolutionizing the personalized learning market of education. So what we know to be standardized education processes and tests and formats, what we're doing is we are using big data to understand students' learning profiles. We essentially grab analytics as to how they learn, and we take that data and then we create a personalized, customized user experience on the computer for the student on the other side of the screen. So two different students in the same class who can have the same goal. For example, I need to master trigonometry within 6 weeks. Can have entirely different experiences that cater to their strengths and focus on their weaknesses.
So, dealing with kind of a school-based product, how do you guys go about marketing that? When it comes to actually selling it, are you trying to sell an entire, is it selling school by school? Is it teacher by teacher? Is it an entire school system?
Sure.
I guess who's your
Yes.
customer there?
Right. So there are two different types of sales going on at Newton. One is the traditional business development partnership discussion that leads to an agreement that leads to our technology being implemented with a partner. So the traditional partnership model. And then there's my role, which is the B2C marketer. And my focus is specifically on, I guess you could call it, the bottom of the funnel. So not the decision makers at the top, but rather the teachers who are actually using these types of products on a day-to-day basis. So I'm tasked every day with finding these teachers. They may be in niche communities. They may be in some of the big four social networks that we all know and love, or there may be other places for me to find them, but bottom line is I find them, I make them aware of Newton, and I optimize my process, my messaging every step of the way to increase conversions.
So how do you, say a teacher, well, let's jump into this and then we'll jump into how I actually get them. They
Sure.
see an ad, they get taken to a landing page or, something along those lines. What's that process look like? How do you get them?
Sure. Sure. So first off, to be clear, there's obviously paid and organic processes that are going on here. So both of them do, as you said, lead to a landing page. The landing page, I try to customize messaging per campaign and send targeted groups to targeted landing pages. So essentially, if you were to think of duplicating a particular page, changing headline or an image, but having that targeted to a particular group. So a Twitter campaign might go to a landing page that the URL may be /Twitter versus a LinkedIn/LinkedIn. I may even get more targeted and decide if I'm speaking to members of a particular LinkedIn group that is focused on, for example, education technology versus the actual teaching. Then I may have a LinkedIn targeted landing page, but the copy will be reflective of EdTech. So those are the types of segments that I create initially, and then it's just a matter of driving the traffic to those landing pages, to the targeted groups, both organic and paid.
So with it seems like between the organic paid split, I remember you mentioning on the organic side, it's a lot of Twitter and LinkedIn. On the
Mm-hmm.
paid side, it's mainly Facebook ads and what else would you say?
Yeah, so on paid ads, I have definitely focused on Facebook ads for the overwhelming majority of my spend. We do have an agency that handles our Google AdWords, but from a personal standpoint, I have found more value, not just at Newton, but in my years past in my career, the last year or two, really optimizing spend in Facebook, Building communities with targeted paid like campaigns is invaluable. I would say don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Have you seen the recent, kind of outbreak video going around about, the scandal of Facebook link farms and all that?
No, I haven't, but I'm sure that there's some validity to it, but they're also not considering the practical value add of building a targeted community and spending money wisely.
Well, it seems, especially reading a lot of the comments, it seems like a lot of it is kind of the rah-rah of, Facebook, screw Facebook, they're not worth the money. And then you
Mm,
have a few guys that come in and they comment and they go, you guys just don't know how to target.
exactly.
You don't know what kind of targeting you're doing, and then you're wondering why you're getting all these likes from all these places that don't matter.
Exactly, and to that effect, I would agree that if you're using any tool, Facebook ads or otherwise, inappropriately, you can't expect to optimize spend. You can't expect the results that you see some of the best online marketers writing about in blog posts because you're apparently not heeding the instructions or following the rules. For me, I definitely use Facebook ads to target uh, many different types of targets. So some are obvious, the demographics, age, region, etc. Professional, career, company. Creating the same campaign and duplicating it tens, if not hundreds of times, each one targeting a separate group, a separate segment. And then, of course, you compare one to the other, and you either validate your hypotheses. You know what, we were right, guys. This is exactly where we need to be spending our money and our time. Or you learn very quickly that you're wasting money, or you're simply not getting the final ROI, which is, of course, the registration. I like to call it the line in the SQL database. Once it's official, it's official. So you just try to put as many campaigns out and as many channels as possible to add those lines in the database. And I've definitely had success with Facebook ads.
Can you elaborate on that? The line in the SQL database.
Sure, yeah. So my job description is well, I'm growth marketing manager, but bottom line is I'm responsible for adding users, user growth. The term that is being thrown around is, of course, growth hacker. It's a volatile term. A lot of people love it and embrace it. A lot of people hate it. To be clear, I am cut from the digital marketing cloth. I'm definitely a digital marketer first and foremost. I do think that there's a mentality to be had for not just putting out digital marketing campaigns, but to hold yourself to a final metric, a final ROI, a final, bottom line. How much am I spending? What am I getting from it? Do I lose sleep over not acquiring as many users as I did last week? Yes, I do. And, that I feel is the mentality of what it means to be responsible for growth, whether you call it a hacker or a marketer. That's what I do. So, it's a mentality, like I said, and you have to test, you have to learn, and you have to optimize with everything. The rest of it is details. I like to say, it's literally that straightforward.
So taking a turn back to Facebook, what have you noticed that has been the biggest for you? Has it been, like the small but big things? Has it been custom audiences, or maybe, audience scraping potentially? Has it been doing newsfeed ads versus write column ads? Has there been maybe images versus text versus links versus videos?
Sure.
What has really worked well for you?
Sure. So there's a tactic that I found out about last year called dark page posts. And essentially what that is that is a post in the traditional sense that you're putting a post just like you would on your Facebook page, except it is in draft form. So it is not published to all of your followers, your fan base. It is an ad, but it appears as a post, and it behaves as a post in the sense that it turns up in feeds as it would be a regular post. So I've seen tremendous results from that, and you can only have that option in the Power Editor. And the Power Editor is definitely, just as it stands alone, it's one of the most powerful tools in digital marketing because it's the combination of, when I used to use AdWords, it had the bulk editor, so it's the same idea, except you're combining that with obviously the immense targeting options within Facebook ads. So to me, it's a win-win. I've used that in the sort of testing process that I mentioned earlier,
Mhm.
and definitely had tremendous results because it's already been proven out that news feed posts versus traditional ads, especially the sidebar ads, I mean, they were a thorn in everyone's side because they simply just don't perform unless you have some provocative photo that doesn't speak to your brand. It's just
Have
proven
you
out work.
when you run your do you ever just generate likes for like a Facebook fan page and kind of grow that and grow a community around that or no? Because
Absolutely, yeah. I would say, first of all, I think it's important to know why you would do that. And the why is very simple. It's because if you were to test the same campaign, I don't care what campaign it is, a campaign, and you target your already engaged, already committed base, maybe not a user base, but a Facebook like group or your Twitter followers, and you compare that against a separate group, you will always see, with few exceptions, but generally you will feel confident seeing higher engagement, higher clicks, and just better overall performance, higher conversion rates. It's a long tail conversion, I like to call it. So if I can convince you to like my Facebook page, and then it's either up to me or a corresponding community manager to continue to provide value, to continue to engage you, then when I throw a Facebook dark page post ad at you and I target you, you're already very much sold. The conversion funnel starts with awareness, and I try to find awareness by any means necessary, and a Facebook like is just simply one of those, just as a Twitter follow is, just as a cold message is, of any type in any platform. You start the awareness. They didn't know you existed until that action that the marketer took.
now have
So
you done anything with custom audiences or kind of as I mentioned audience quote unquote scraping or no?
Scraping, I would say no, just simply because, when you're trying to do things at scale, first of all, I'm not the technical marketer in the sense where I can create a quick script and let it fly and see what happens. I have some really brilliant team members who handle those aspects. For me, I'm more seeing the big picture and managing the day-to-day campaigns. So I do use custom audiences. It ties in directly to, if you already have an email base, obviously that's beneficial. Here at Knewton, we have a pretty substantial email base already, but I've obviously started from somewhere, and I've been in startups where you start email addresses from zero, but the moment you have one, it's of value with the custom audience because you can specifically target people based on their email address. And side note, if you were wondering, well, how do I get email addresses? A LinkedIn contact export is a great first crack. It's definitely a legitimate way to acquire email addresses because technically those people have already, I like to call it, they've committed to you as a personal brand. And so I kind of feel like you have a one-shot opportunity to create awareness. Um, in that sense, you don't want to just start emailing people just because they're your LinkedIn contacts, but it is a good opportunity to make people aware of you and to also use for custom audiences for targeting.
Gotcha. Now you mentioned LinkedIn. Have you done any LinkedIn ads? Have you ever tried LinkedIn ads?
So historically, I've definitely tried LinkedIn ads. They are, I guess, through hearsay and also just conversations with my peers. I think the general consensus is that unless you are targeting C-level executives, um, the value is questionable, meaning you're getting impressions, and that's of value. Um, are the clicks turning into conversions? Low on the total raw number of conversions, but very high on the qualification of that conversion. So in other words, the value super high of those 5 conversions that you got, but you spent, $50 to get the 5 conversions, for example, as opposed to getting a lot more, as I said earlier, lines in the SQL database, but maybe they are targeted, but not as high value or as targeted as they might be. So, if what I just explained makes sense for your brand, then I would say wholeheartedly spend some time and money and energy in LinkedIn ads. It does have some value for Knewton, and so we have spent money there, and we will continue to spend a portion of money there. But generally, my ad spend personally for B2C products has gone in Facebook ads and also Twitter ads as well. I found it's a legitimate spend.
So what have you done with Twitter ads? Kind of give us a more
Sure.
0 to 60, because I know there's probably a lot of people that are not that familiar with Twitter ads.
Sure. So Twitter in general is a data gold mine, right? And the reason is because you can search against people based on terms they mention, terms they mention in tweets, terms that they mention in their biographies. The region has some value, although people are sort of, it's not normalized in the region field, so it's not always a city and a state, so it's not as reliable. But you can find some value there. But the point is, it's an open data hub, and you can use similar tactics both manually and organically, and also paid. And what I mean is, you find targeted people based on terms they've mentioned, or maybe mutual followers, or some sort of indicator of value or interest. And you would basically create your campaigns around those groups of people. So in the case of Knewton, hypothetically speaking, say I'm looking for math teachers. I am looking up people who are mentioning terms that math teachers would mention, so subject matters, possibly participating in hashtag chats. And so, obviously someone who has mentioned a hashtag, someone who has mentioned that they are quite literally a math teacher in their bio, people who are following math-specific accounts. These are the types of targeting that you can do for LinkedIn, for Twitter ads, but also, as I continue to mention, I think this is important, organic, free Twitter campaigns that you run manually. The only pay that you're doing is, managing the monthly pay for, or the monthly cost for a tool that you're using. I found tremendous success with that tactic alone. I joke with my boss that I treat it as calisthenics. It's just something you have to do every day for an hour. And you just have to follow targeted people, keep your Twitter base clean, unfollow the junk. You will get targeted Twitter follows. You will get clicks on your Twitter bio. You can direct message people. It's all worthwhile to build community, to build brand ambassadors, and most importantly, to build traffic. But you can do those same tactics, both free and paid.
So let's jump into what tool do you actually use for that, and what does that process look like a bit more,
Sure. So to be fair to the industry standard tools, I do use and have used both TweetDeck and Hootsuite. I generally feel that they are more for live conversations. So when it comes time to discover someone who's mentioning a particular term that doesn't know you exist, again, the funnel starts with awareness. The community manager then comes in, albeit a bit of a growth role, and makes people aware that you exist. They might respond to a question. They might chime in on a hashtag chat. They might do the following that I mentioned earlier. But bottom line is, they are using tools like Hootsuite and TweetDeck to to find these folks. That said, I feel that for my purposes, which are literally bulk finding the right people, following, unfollowing, finding people who influence certain accounts. I mean, just the nuances around the data of these people, just the next level of data. The tool that I swear by, and I want to put a disclaimer, I am not representing this company. I don't get paid for these mentions, but like they are the best thing since sliced bread. The tool is Social Bro, and I do acknowledge that the tool name is a little funny. But all you need to do is set up a trial, and you will be floored. You can search the details of people who mention some of these hashtags and some of these mutual following accounts. So for the example of math teachers, once again, there might be a math account, math 123, let's say, and they have a certain amount of followers. I can not only see who these people are, the raw number of followers, fair enough, that's basic, but then you can go deep dive and see, who is participating in other communities as well, or who has mentioned certain terms within this subgroup within the last week. And it's just another layer of high value data where, for the cost, I mean, it's a no-brainer.
So with that data, are you you're following them, but are you tweeting at them? Are you DMing them? Are you, what's after you kind of locate these people? What's the next step there?
Sure. So again, like with regards to driving traffic and increasing reach, I can't stress enough that a follow is very powerful, and it is not just some dilly-dallying that people are like, wasting their time on social media following people. If done correctly, it is a very powerful tool for your brand because it drives traffic and builds awareness. That said, when I am putting those efforts out, my goal is to drive traffic via the biography link and also the direct messages, though I will say just a few weeks ago there was a huge disruption to Twitter direct messages as it relates to hyperlinks. But prior to that, I was able to get some tremendous results. And I believe, my hypothesis is because people associate direct messages with generally spam or Twitter account validation or some other crap that has nothing to do with you as the user. So it's sort of like a glance inbox. And plus the UI of the direct message on Twitter is horrendous. So people just simply don't use it. But that is exactly why I do use it and focus on it. Because to be able to differentiate, say you were to receive a personalized direct message, hey Sweeney, I'm reaching out because I see you're interested in math. Check out this cool math tool, this cool free math tool link. In 140 characters, I have done a targeted campaign. I've seen 66% click-through rates on thousands of outbounds, and 30+% conversion rates on the landing page. So this is no joke. I was very much in a somber mood, and still am, when Twitter made that disruption, because folks can say, oh, well, you're doing it to disrupt spam. What I just explained doesn't feel spammy, and that's because it's not spam. It's providing value to an appropriate person. So, boo-hoo for me.
Well, I think you can't really argue with 66% and 30% because obviously it's providing value. Otherwise, people wouldn't be clicking through. They wouldn't be signing up. They wouldn't be interested.
Exactly.
And you probably wouldn't keep doing it.
Exactly, and not to mention countless residual benefits. So people responding to to create conversations. Though in bulk, you can imagine that that's very difficult to maintain. But the reality is, you're creating brand ambassadors. You're creating people who are excited that you're finding them and reaching out to them.
Yeah, and you've already kind of qualified them, and you know that they're in that space. And
exactly.
So what did Twitter change with that? And so that strategy doesn't really work, or it doesn't work as well?
Well, I mean, the strategy has changed in the sense that what they've done is they've disallowed hyperlinks in URL in your direct messages, unless you qualify, unless the sender of the direct message qualifies as a certain type of account. So you need to be a verified account, or you would be sending direct messages from a qualified site. So what a shocker, the primary qualified site is twitter.com. So essentially you would be sending links of tweets, twitter.com/status/abc123. That has, of course, caused a different type of spamminess, and so I just don't think, for all the value that Twitter provides and all of the hundreds of millions of users that they have, I think that they have a hard time sometimes with their product decisions and their UI, but that's for another conversation. I think that they are trying to prevent a problem by preventing this direct message. The alternative is to still use the tactic for brand awareness. And that direct message still has benefits with regards to driving traffic to your profiles link. So if you still get a direct message from, random account A that just
123 tool.
Right, exactly. Then,
Math bro.
Right, exactly, math bro. Then I may not be giving you a link within that direct message, but I most certainly have created the awareness after the follow and the direct message. And then the thought is that you'll click my link in the bio.
Is that what you guys have been doing, or how have you guys responded to that kind of disruption?
Well, I've recently slowed down on that particular tactic, given the fact that what I'm explaining is very new. I would say within the last 2 months. In the meantime, what I'm doing is, like any marketing manager, I have many different moving parts, many different channels, and I have certain things automated and certain things that I'm working on manually. Right now, we happen to be working on refining our marketing automation tool, which happens to be HubSpot, and so that has taken up a majority of my time. So, I think it's more of a timing issue than some sort of a tactical thing. But I'm actually excited to test out that strategy that I just explained.
Gotcha. So as far as trying to drive them to the bio and the profile more so than being able to hyperlink still, or you're saying, or just...
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. The added step there is kind of what I mentioned earlier about the fact that you can use hyperlinks of tweets themselves or Twitter accounts themselves, anything that is from the domain twitter.com. So in that sense, you could still provide the same value add in a tweet and leave enough room for a Twitter link, a tweet link rather. So, hey Johnny, check out my Math123 link, and then actually have a link of a tweet that is publicly referencing the hyperlink that you want them to get to. So a bit convoluted. It's definitely messed up the funnel, but
yeah,
it is what it is. That's the life of a digital marketer. Just a few years ago, you would have interviewed me, and I would have been talking up and down about Google AdWords. You haven't heard a peep about it because I don't.
Yeah, well, it sounds like another step. Now you have your tweet landing page to take them to the landing page. So it's trying to figure out that funnel, and that's one of the things that a lot of people have kind of noticed with Facebook, or people that struggled with it, is you kind of have to bridge the gap between Facebook to your landing page.
Right. No, definitely. Yeah, like I said, I focus a lot of my traffic driving efforts in social media. The big four, right? So Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and then depending on your product, insert the fourth big one here, whether it's Instagram, Pinterest, or maybe some niche community. But there's always YouTube. How can I forget YouTube, right?
I was gonna ask, have you guys done anything with YouTube? Have you done anything with just video content or video ads, or no?
Well, Knewton, in a prior iteration of Knewton as a company and as a product, Knewton was creating its own content, and so the answer would have been yes. Creating educational videos for certain subject matters and using them to drive traffic to a paid registration for a test prep product. But that is the old Knewton. As it stands today, we are not creating our own content. But what we are doing is, similarly to some of the other tactics I mentioned, using it as a customer discovery tool. In this case, our focus is to acquire as many teachers as possible, specifically digitally savvy teachers, and even more specifically, digitally savvy teachers who are already creating their own content, their own unique content. So someone who would essentially put together a video lesson about, anything, chemistry, math, astronomy, whatever. But someone who is obviously proving who they are as a persona via those actions. We find those people, and we use similar tactics in terms of messaging them and asking them if they'd like to participate in our Knewton personalized learning product and community. And I forget the exact conversion rates, but I can say that they are similar. Maybe not 66% click-through rates. That was unique to Twitter DMs, but we're talking in the 20s to 30s of conversion rates, from awareness to I've got you in my database. So I'm pretty confident in this process,
And
regardless
you
of
were sa-
platform.
and you were saying I kind of lost you a little bit there because we were talking about YouTube. You're saying that you use YouTube to find these people as well, or you're more just
Yes.
saying that so you're looking for their kind of channels, or they're already putting out this kind of content and they're
That's exactly right,
ambassador
and then
discovery.
using our accounts to reach out to them again, creating the awareness. Hi, we are brand A, in this case Newton, but we are brand A. We want you to know, A, that we exist, and B, we have reason to like you, and C, we think you have reason to like us. Period. And take it from there.
And now let's next LinkedIn. You've
Hmm.
mentioned LinkedIn and using that as an organic strategy. How have you guys? And I don't know if you noticed on LinkedIn and when you did do ads.
Hmm.
Typically, it seems like LinkedIn ads are just too expensive for most people unless you're at enterprise level software or high level consulting.
Exactly.
Um, but when they added the skills recently,
Hmm.
that opened up the targeting a decent amount. Because I
Right.
remember, I was just messing around and I was looking at startups and, what founders, like, you don't really know what to target job wise. But then I went to the skills section, put in startups, and now I have a million people that I can
Right.
target.
Right. No, I mean that's a great point. I think quickly on that point, the more targeting, the better for all of the social media ad platforms. Obviously, Facebook is well ahead of the curve because not only do they have their data that you can target from, but they also have data partnerships that speak to behaviors and such. And I would say that neither Twitter nor LinkedIn truly have that level of targeting. But you're right to say that the more that they open up the ability to target based on profile data, the better, obviously. Um, where I use my LinkedIn efforts are more with LinkedIn groups, because again, the same logic that I'm explaining is related to finding the right people, and the right people. What does it mean to be the right person? It means that you have done something or demonstrated some action or associated yourself with a brand or a concept, or somehow you are 1 degree away from my target. And so LinkedIn groups exactly represents that. If I've committed to a particular group of a particular topic or a particular subject matter or a particular community, then that is the first step. I am by definition, the first layer of targeting within that. From there, you can do everything from basic content distribution within those groups, which I do think performs well. Well, it depends on the LinkedIn group. If you were to join, hypothetically speaking, if you were to join 30, you'll see 25 will be a ghost town, and then 5 will be like very engaged and very valuable for your content marketing efforts. So there's that. And then there's also the ability to message or connect with fellow group members in general. One of the LinkedIn product nuances is the fact that you obviously can communicate directly with first-degree contacts, and you have opportunities to connect with second and third, but a group member is in some ways treated like a first-degree contact if given the right location to communicate with these people. You can communicate with group members within the group page directly in their inbox, and so I've had resounding results with that tactic as well, with the same mentality. You are a member of this LinkedIn group, and so, you know, by definition, you're showing interest in something that I'm showing interest in as well. Let's talk. Generally that simple, and it works pretty well.
Now, kind of on a, I wonder on a manager level,
Hmm.
obviously, I would guess you're not sending all these messages yourself.
No, that's actually not the case. I am sending these messages myself, and I think in part that's because um, I feel strongly that part of being a good marketer is understanding your customers. Part of being a good marketer is being on the front lines. And I, in particular, I have, prior to my full-time marketing career, I was working with data and databases. And so I've grown accustomed to being able to remember names, remember nuances of people, remember, you know, context just by glancing at data. And that's not necessarily, I'm mentioning that just to say that there's value in that because the marketer needs to understand your customer base. And I feel that that's an important exercise. Um, there's automation, and then there's manual automation. And I also think that it's good to repeat a certain process because you grow familiar with that. That's in life, really. You
Yeah.
just continue to grow familiar with repeatable processes.
I was
And
just
the
wondering
other
if,
thing the other thing that I want to mention is that I have personally invested into my LinkedIn accounts, into my Twitter accounts, into my Facebook accounts, such that I am not I am a marketer in the truest sense. I am open, I am an open book. If I have a bad emotional day, you'll know about it on my Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn.
you
Similarly,
don't sugarcoat it. You
I don't sugarcoat it. Similarly, I will let you know that I am representing a brand that can change your life. And so that same authenticity has worked for me, and that's why I prefer to use my own accounts in general. And the other thing is that I, just on a bottom line, raw number level, I have a large reach that I've spent a lot of time building. And so obviously there's the benefits of one-to-one communication with people who you're directly connected to. And so I can't expect any automated process or any peer of mine to have the same experience that I would. You know, I have over 7,000 LinkedIn contacts. You know, I have 5,000 Twitter followers, and I'm not saying this to be cool, but I think it's important to grow your reach with that benefit in mind. That I can literally, at any moment, I'm selling a product, a shoe, a chair. I have a certain reach that I can directly connect with immediately. And that's the process that I've taken in my marketing career, and it's worked for me.
so actually building up a following or building up people that really resound with you and being authentic compared to just sugar coated quick hits makes
That's
a lot
it.
of sense. Is there anything outside of what we've mentioned that you guys have been doing that has been working well, or anything that you guys have tried and you noticed it went extremely bad and it was a waste of your time?
Uh, I'll say that we have a unique opportunity here at Newton because um, offline has worked so well for us in the sense that we do a lot of events or we partner with companies that throw events. And the way that that benefits, I guess, me and my team's digital marketing efforts is that we look to assure or we look to ensure that we acquire as many, if not all, email addresses as possible. So no bit of energy is lost by simply putting an event together because in the end, You then add these people to your reach. We've had events where we've literally walked away with 400 email addresses. And again, to my point earlier about creating awareness and having someone buy into your brand, by them simply attending that event, that has already happened. So, I just look at it as another way to be able to acquire legitimate email addresses. Other than that, I would say that content marketing is working very well for us here at Knewton, and I think that in general, it's common knowledge that content marketing works. Hey, shocker, right? But
Yeah.
With regards to us specifically, infographics have worked very well. We have a lot of thought leadership pieces that perform solid, and by solid I mean several hundred hits per piece. A good amount of conversions from that. Social shares are a decent amount. By decent, maybe in the double digits per article. So no blog post is ever a wasted effort. But infographics are evergreen, man. I mean, you spend a couple of $1,000s to make one legit infographic, and I've seen infographics in particular. We have 2 or 3 that are just continuously retweeted, shared, liked on the page, and that's not of course, the virality there is obvious. Other people are sharing your material, but one other factor is the fact that now with Google's recent algorithm changes, certain social signals are more important than ever before, specifically Google plus ones and Facebook shares. Not from what I understand, not in the broad sense of Facebook shares, not if I just take the URL and share it on my Facebook page, but more specifically that I am on your page and I click the Facebook share button, and the specific type of share that comes from that is part of the Google newest algorithm, and so that has worked very well for us in general. Just getting the Facebook share on page, and Google plus ones. Although I would say we are no different than most companies today in the sense that we know Google is important, Google plus ones, Google plus, but we're still trying to crack that challenge as well. Like most brands, I've seen a few that have done it with resounding success, and frankly, I'm jealous and impressed.
On Google Plus?
Yeah, I mean HubSpot, for example, but they do well at everything, don't they? Another one, and this is a special shout out to a good friend of mine in New York City who has been very impressive with his Google Plus following, is the Fat Startup. So that's spelled PHAT, a play on the term lean startup. They're providing entrepreneurial insights and high-value interviews to the urban communities. And I mean, their Google Plus following is ridiculous. I mean, it's got to be in the tens of thousands, if not 100,000, but maybe tens of thousands sounds right. But the point is, it's impressive, and I would say that it's because their tactics are focusing on converting the plus one, and that can only bode well for you're differentiating yourself because you're putting energy in a social network that, I most certainly am not, and I would argue that many of my peers are not doing as much as they can or should in Google Plus, and so by definition, you differentiate yourself there. And as I mentioned before, it's helpful with SEO.
With the content pieces, the infographics, is there any kind of particular distribution you're doing for it, or you've done for it, or is it just kind of now you already have this base of people that are interested in kind of brand ambassadors that do it for you?
Well, in particular, our infographics rank very high in SEO for the specific terms, and so that really is the differentiator. One hypothetical is there's a concept in the education technology industry called flipped classroom, and the concept quickly is that you're turning what it means to be in a classroom on its head. So not so much um, sitting in a room with a table and other students and a teacher, and taking in the lesson at that point and then going home and doing homework, but it's been flipped. So you are watching online content to do your education, and you're coming into the classroom and essentially doing like office hours or work hours with other students and the teacher. So that concept in education technology is a very um, it's very intriguing, depending on the segment of people. It can be polarizing. A lot of people don't like the fact that the traditional model is being disrupted. But bottom line is, it's a heavily searched term, and we rank one, if not two, on that term. And that's almost for a separate discussion. Like, how did we rank one or two for that term? But the point is like, because we've ranked high on the term, we continuously get traffic, and we continuously get the social signals outbound because it's a high-value infographic. It's just well done. It explains a concept that may not be fully understood.
And it does seem like those kind of pieces do the best sometimes. If you can, take something that's not understood very well, explain it well, and then have the infographic side, which everyone loves. I mean, who doesn't love infographics? And you're going to do well.
Exactly.
I was listening to a
That's
podcast
exactly
where they explained Bitcoin recently, and it was the first time where I went, "Oh, that makes sense."
right.
And I've never really had that moment before.
Right. No, I
Now,
mean that you have to understand as a brand that what you consider normal, easy to understand, if your goal is B2C acquisitions, you have to assume that everyone on the other side of that screen does not know what the heck you're talking about. And so an infographic is just a perfect way to simplify complex concepts, and make it easy to digest.
gotcha. Now, have you used in back to the kind of the Twitter? Have you used Little Bird at all, or have you used I think it's called Slingbot at all?
So I haven't used either of those. I have heard of both of them. And I would say through hearsay I've heard good things about both of them. But I definitely, I'm like most folks, I've got my tools, and until they do me wrong, I'm working with them. In social media, the tools that I mentioned, Social Bro, of course, but the other one that I have used in the past, I've been using it less recently, but I definitely recommend it, is Sprout Social. I've definitely used Sprout Social extensively the last year or two. Um, I feel like it's a good universal ecosystem of the varying things you can do in social media. Gives you some decent analytics. It's you could argue they're trying to be the HubSpot of social media in that sense. They have a ways to go. If you couldn't tell, I'm a HubSpot fanboy.
Seems that way.
Yep. And by the way, Knewton is powered by HubSpot in terms of our automation stuff. So yeah, I mean, anytime where you get an all-in-one value add, you're giving up some things. You might not get as powerful of a particular area of a tool than others, but I feel that keeping the data in a cohesive ecosystem so I don't have disjointed data is like an understated problem for marketers everywhere, and I personally just would rather deal with a tool that does everything good enough than to worry about like 7 different tools that are all amazing, but then I have to pull data 7 different ways, and it's just a hassle.
Kind of slows you down.
Definitely slows you down.
In the sense of data, do you use anything, Gecko board or anything else like that for your kind of data management or data oversight or insights or?
I was optimistic initially when I started to look into these all-in-one dashboards, but I don't feel that any of them actually solve the problem that I'm having, which is not just showing me the data from these various sources, but actually interpreting it as if it was all from one system. I think that is what's missing in all of these data dashboards. That said, I generally just pull in my data into a spreadsheet that I'm comfortable with, a Google Doc spreadsheet, I create my own charts. It's either that or I create custom, custom reports in Google Analytics. That's definitely served me well. But yeah, that's generally where I use my data. I mean, at a later point when Knewton's platform, our B2C platform, starts to ramp up, we'll be more focused on the actual user analytics, less than the marketing campaign analytics. Or I said that wrong. The user analytics will be focused on more so than the marketing campaign analytics. And when that time comes, we'll be using things that can work well with the SQL database. Bottom line.
And now, as far as retention, is there anything that you guys are doing? Because we've talked a lot about getting leads in, but it's someone has tried out Newton or they're using it. What are you guys doing on that kind of back end to get people either more involved with it and using it more, or to actually stick?
Well, we do have email drip campaigns that are related to that are segmented by user type, and we try to take our content marketing and simply add like one extra layer of content distribution to these people to keep them engaged. Beyond that, we're not at a point where we're focused on that stuff just yet, because the platform is still in the process of being built. So, Sweeney, that said, my time is up. I'm getting hard stares from some colleagues of mine.
The best way to end is with hard stares. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. If people want to reach you, where can they find you at?
Yeah, so I can be reached on Twitter at Chris_Excel, spelled like Microsoft Excel, CHRIS_EXCEL. Anyone can reach out to me on email at chris.excel.rodriguez, spelled with a Z, @gmail.com. And yeah, you can just Google that, Chris Excel Rodriguez or Chris Excel, and you'll probably find me somewhere.
Gotcha. Appreciate you coming on, man.
Cool. Thanks, Sweeney. Thanks for your time. Good luck to you guys.
Be in touch.
All right.